Yeah, we've been putting some work into this, some a little bit of thought. So if you guys have any questions, concerns, like Q&A as usual, we'll have that. But today we're going to be talking about Blender. And this is going to be really cool because it's an open source free software that has been really making its growth, and it has been having like new features and been used in industry level production now. And the best thing is it's free and open source, so anybody could actually like get a hold of it right now and start using it. But first, I would like to introduce our guest of the day. And our guest, so let me pull the transition back up real quick first. Our guest is Satish Goda, and he's currently a technical director at Pearl Studio, and he's also a Blender head. So he's been teaching Blender for a long time too. He was a senior Blender educator as well too at Rhythm and Hue. So first, let me introduce you guys to Satish. Transitions here. Hi everybody. So Satish, you're on.
All right. Hi guys. Very excited to be here. Thanks, Marisa and ASIFA-South for having me. So yeah, my name is Satish Goda. I've been using Blender for a long time. In my day job, I'm a technical director at Pearl Studio right now since 5 years. And before that, I was at Rhythm and Hue Studios for 8 years. But I've been using Blender since 2000 when I was an undergraduate. And then I kept, learning it and keeping track of it. So I kind of try to experiment with different parts of it and share what I know. So I think, that's a quick overview.
So I know that like some people might wonder what Pearl Studio is because like before that you're like, okay, there's DreamWorks, Pearl Studio, kind of thing, and also you've worked on the Abominable. So let me share a little quick clip, and it has the words on it. It's produced by let's see here.
When you set your mind on something, nothing.
I cannot see what you're presenting though.
I'm just presenting a little quick trailer.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
cool.
that's it. But the main thing is, there's now the logo that says DreamWorks and Pearl Studio on it too. So let's go back to our main camera, and then let's have Satish kind of like give us a little overview of like what that means first. Okay, let's see. Okay, Satish. So what is it? What is Pearl Studio?
So Pearl Studio, like previously was Oriental DreamWorks. So we were like collaborating with DreamWorks USA and making movies for the global audience, like Chinese like stories for the global audience. And Abominable was a co-production with Oriental DreamWorks, Pearl Studio and DreamWorks. So yeah.
Okay, so that's interesting. So now it's like a co-production type of thing too. And and I wanted to show them a quick little trailer of Spring, which is a movie made by Blender. So Satish, I'm gonna share your screen so you can also see what I'm seeing right now first too.
Sounds good.
To my entire screen. Bam, share. So okay, let's quickly go to this one again. Oops. Drip. Let's see. Let's transition back. Okay. So for this particular one, it's and I see that you were also writing about this too. Spring, the Blender, the open movie, and I think it's available online in full that for people to actually watch this. But we're only going to watch a couple seconds of this just because copyright issues and things like that.
There's no copyright issue on Spring. It's in fact, I'll talk more about the Blender open movies.
Oh man, that's perfect. Okay. So I mean, this looks amazing.
Yeah, this was the last open movie from the Blender Institute, Blender Animation Studios in Amsterdam.
Yeah, I think
amazing artists.
I think this also won like one of the SIGGRAPH Asia Awards too.
Yes. Was it Tokyo?
Yes, the Tokyo one. Okay.
Tokyo, right?
Yeah. So I think that's what we have so far. But first, let's go back to you. And stop presenting. Okay. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your little animation journey and also how you kind of got into Blender.
Right. So I did my undergraduate studies in mechatronics, mechanical and electronics. So I was really good at like mechanical drawing, like machine design. So I started learning CAD, in my third year, and in the last year, VRML, virtual reality modeling language, was out in the late 90s. So I was learning about VRML, like you had to type JavaScript code, kind of code to get like VRML code to create a 3D model. Then I was like, looking out for tools that output or export VRML, and Blender was one of the tools that came across my, hands. So, and then I was like, what is this? And then, the community was strong even in the late 90s, like early 2000s. So the community is what got me, like persistent about learning Blender and be curious about Blender. So I used Blender during my undergraduate thesis, and then after my graduation, I took 6 months off and just learned Blender. So this was 2001, and then I went to my like graduate studies in US, Stevens Institute of Technology in New Jersey, Hoboken, New Jersey. And there I was a research assistant at the computer visualization lab. And one of our projects needed 3D modeling. And my professor purchased the license of 3ds Max, but I said, can I use Blender? Because I've been using it for a year or so. I said, why not? Whatever you want. So I kept using Blender from 2002 through 2005 at my graduate university.
It's changed a lot, hasn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. In fact, let me share my screen. I have some screenshots of the work I did.
Oh, that'll be cool.
Let me share.
Is this from 2013?
No. This is 2003. 2003.
Wow. Okay. Perfect.
Yeah, 2003.
I think this is perfect because we always want to see artists' older work before they become professionals too.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, this is my first production work. So basically, what I did was, as you can see, I modeled our entire university campus, in the best way I can, and captured photographs of all the buildings and simple UV textured it. So basically, this was a very early prototype of our research proposal. So it was very very simple. We just wanted to get the grant for the research project. So I was using Blender for basic modeling, texturing, and then the Blender game engine. So what you see here is the Blender game engine.
There's a Blender game engine?
Yeah, I mean, like before like 2.8, there was a game engine bundle inside of Blender. Pretty amazing things you could do with it. So I use the game engine to get real-time data from sensors, and then like display their representation in the in the game engine. So anyway, so this was like something that I always cherish, that I was able to use Blender. So my professor moved on to another university, but he still has our project listed. So in fact today I was able to find it because it was removed from my from my earlier university, like Stevens. So finally I found it today. Cool. So so that was 2003 to 2005, and then I went back to India, and then in 2006 I joined Rhythm and Hue, and I was a junior pipeline TD, and then a senior educator for the next 6 to 8 years. And during that time, I used to do lots of
Aw.
Blender sessions. So this is in Rhythm and Hue Malaysia. So we used to have Blender sessions for anyone in Malaysia, I mean Kuala Lumpur, to come to our studio, and I used to conduct classes. And this is at CG Tantra Expo in Mumbai in 2011, I believe. So and this is in Hyderabad, like Rhythm and Hue Hyderabad.
Oh, nice.
So in a screening room, and this is just a few folks from IIT, like Indian Institute of Technology, Mumbai.
Oh, nice.
So I trained a team there on using Blender. So this is the team from IIT Mumbai. Yeah. So like Samir, so Samir Sahasrabudhe. So like he was lead of a open source lab. Like he still conducts Blender training in India, like
Nice.
MOOCs, like massive online courses and stuff. So
Yeah.
pretty. And then finally, so this is a picture from New Orleans, SIGGRAPH, where I met,
Is that Jeff?
Where?
All the way in the back? Oh, no, never mind.
No, that's Tom Rosendahl here,
Okay.
so the creator of Blender.
Oh, okay.
So
It's like so tiny. Also.
I met Tom in 2009 for the first time, and so this is Brecht, who is the designer of Cycles rendering engine, and Basam. He was the director of the first open movie from Blender Institute. In fact, let me show. Yeah, so the first ever movie made using Blender, an open movie, is Elephant's Dream, and that was directed by Basam.
Oh, nice.
Basam. Yeah, so where is it? Let me. Okay, Cloud, right here. So yeah, since then, so Blender, Institute, Blender Animation Studio have been working on movies to improve Blender. So yeah, I'll get back to this. Yeah, I mean that was my journey, and then after Rhythm and Hue, I moved to Malaysia, and I'm sorry, after Rhythm and Hue, I moved to Shanghai at Oriental DreamWorks. And during that time, I used Blender for like a customized Blender for animators to like bring in reference footage, edit it,
Yes.
and then output the final movie.
Oh, so you mean there's also like interest in studios on about Blender as well too, like in general?
Yeah.
In the industry.
Yeah, in general, it's Swiss Army knife. You can do a lot of cool things with it, and like one of the things is the video editing in a system. Like you can edit videos in Blender, which I'll show a demo of later. So at Oriental DreamWorks, I implemented a customized user interface for Blender.
Yeah.
So animators can bring in footage and export 4-view play blasts and stuff.
Yeah, and I think before you move off this page, one of the things that the people in our community that are interested in 2D would be really interested about is Hero, because I know that one is like they created it, and it's all these 2D look with a grease pencil too. So I think this is such a hot topic right now around like some of the 2D folks.
Yeah, 2D and 3D, like Hero was, like Daniel Martinez Lara. So, in fact, he is one of the main, force behind the development of, grease pencil, from the artist, like artist side. And there's one more artist, like, and then there's a programmer. So, yeah, the three of them are really, and others, it's a big team that, improves, grease pencil. Yeah, grease pencil is a 2D, 3D hybrid sketching system. I'll show a quick, like a demo of it. And there's also a grease pencil, resources page where you can download a lot of blend files. Like, the community has, provided a bunch of blend files for free. You can download and study them,
Oh, these are great. I think this is a really great resource. We'll take that out and we'll put that into the links afterwards.
So yeah, so Hero was the first, short film made using, Blender,
Yeah.
Grease Pencil.
Yeah.
And, the whole idea of Blender Animation Studio is make movies and improve Blender, you know. And not only that, provide all the production files to the community. So
Oh, fantastic.
like you can access like you can access all the production data for this
Oh my
assets and
God.
production
Could we
files.
could we see something like a really quick clip preview
Oh,
of,
sure.
of Grease
For Hero,
Pencil?
right?
Yeah. Because so that people
Yeah,
can
let me do
see,
that.
they might think, like, oh, if people don't know Blender, they'll might be like, oh, a 3D software, how can it do 2D? So we just want to see the quality of production that it can do real quick.
Shoot. Can you hear the audio? I'm not sure if you can hear Can you?
I don't think so, but you know what? I think this is good for just like a quick preview as well too.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. I'll skip around to show the highlights of the.
Sounds
okay?
good. Yeah, sounds good. I think that's fantastic
Okay.
idea. Wow, look at that. And for people who are interested in this, you can actually see the whole animation for free.
Yeah, all the open movies are like available on the Blender YouTube channel. Everything, you get access to the assets and production files if you are subscribed to the Blender Cloud. I'm subscribed to the cloud since 3 years. It's like $115 a year, around that, and it's I have access to training, I have access to films, I have access to like libraries of HDRI and
I'm gonna go join up right after this.
yeah. So and the training is the most amazing thing, in fact I recently finished the Grease Pencil Fundamentals course to prepare for this session. It's amazing. In fact, while on the topic of Grease Pencil, let's view a quick overview of Grease Pencil.
Nice.
Yeah.
So like what people are seeing on the screen right now is like they're like, oh wow, you're drawing just like traditional 2D, right?
1 second. Sorry, you're saying?
Like just now the technique, it's like people drawing straight on like they would in 2D, like in different softwares like Toon Boom and stuff too. You can see the lines of the strokes as well too.
Yeah, in fact, it's actually a 3D sketching system, but you can also do 2D.
Yeah.
To be frank, because all the data is actual 3D positions that you can they have Z depth as well. I mean they have a Z coordinate as well, so it's pretty phenomenal. Yeah. So that's the Grease Pencil course, and then there are lots of courses on. In fact, I need to learn a lot of these. I've only finished the rigging and maybe rigging on the Grease Pencil, which I finished through.
Oh, there's a Blender for 3D printing too.
Yeah,
so we have a question here as well as a comment.
Sure.
So William, who also loves Blender, says that I lost my body. Yeah, I lost my body on Netflix. Also uses Blender and Grease Pencil.
Oh yes. In fact, like Jeremy, the director.
Yes.
They actually made the movie in 3D, and then they took the 3D data and then did the artistic pass. Okay. So it's awesome, I think if you go
and then
afters, there's a making of on this website.
Yeah, and then we had like Dominic who was asking like, oh, is it frame by frame animation an option? And William was like, yes, totally. It's onion skinning too.
Yes, definitely. In fact, I'll show you a quick, demo. I mean, just to give you a quick overview of the system. Okay. So where was I? So yeah, so the Blender Cloud has training courses. The next one I want to learn is animation fundamentals. They have provided like access to these rigs.
Oh, nice.
So you can use them wherever you want. They are free to share. And they're public. So you don't need a cloud account to get access to these rigs. You just go to this link and download the rigs.
Oh, the classic ball with tail.
The whistle ball, and then any other questions, or did I answer them?
Yeah, you did. You answered it. I think they want to see your the demo that you were talking about.
All right, cool. So also, like, one of the things that I'm proud of from Rhythm and Hue's days is this short film we did. Like, I trained 3 animators, like, during downtime at work. They wanted to learn Blender because I was a big Blender evangelist, Blender guy around the studio. So they approached me and said, hey, can you please teach us Blender? I said, why not? And then so Ambika, Aram, and Sachin, they were all awesome animators. So yeah, we did the training for a couple of months, and then Sachin had a story idea, and we got support from the production to make this at the studio, during our downtime. So we documented our entire process on this blog. So yeah, you can see 2012 October through the release, July 17, 2013. So
I think especially for somebody who wants to be an educator as well too, or start their own online course, starting documenting these things are also really awesome, right?
Yeah, definitely. In fact, now if you go on YouTube, the amount of Blender tutorials and the quality of Blender tutorials is amazing. I'm learning new things. Watching other artists, I will share some of the playlists with you. Like, I have been, making note of some of them. So, like, recently, like Blender 2. I think 8.2 or 8.3 will be getting a very much improved cloth simulator, like really, really amazing improvements to the cloth simulation. So somebody already created a playlist,
Wow.
It's the best thing about Blender is the community, which brings me to, there's in fact a website called blender.community. Okay, just go to blender.community and you see what I mean.
Okay.
So practical cloth sims, and Chris,
Definitely.
is generously creating all these training videos. So so Warm Story was one, and then let me see. When I was in like Shanghai at Oriental DreamWorks, we had a transition period at the company, and during that time I worked with the education department in Shanghai, and on the training department in Shanghai at Oriental DreamWorks was working with some like elementary schools in Shanghai. So yeah, the kids, the students at the school came up with the story idea and the artwork, and we used a cutout animation plugin for Blender to create this short film.
Oh, nice.
So it's called What If Rugo. It's a like 7-minute film. I can share the link with you.
Oh, perfect.
But so we used Blender for like the initial edit, to bring in the images, get the sense of timing, and then like rig these like using the cutout animation add-on.
Oh, what's it called? The add-on?
Yeah. So there's a cutout animation add-on for Blender.
Oh, what is that called?
I think Cutout Tools, I believe. GitHub, Cutout.
Does it support rigging, or like what does it exactly do?
It makes the process of So this is it. So it's a 2D animation suite for Blender. So it makes the process of rigging sprites, very easy.
Yes. And
you know.
before you go
So
anywhere, I'm just gonna let you know first. When people come to a page like this, sometimes, especially if they're not a programmer, they're gonna get very intimidated. They're gonna be like, "Oh my god, where's the button to install this and that?"
download, right? Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know if there's a website for this, but I can, maybe, provide the instructions to, like install this.
Yeah, that would be
So yeah,
fantastic.
we used this in 2017 actually. Yeah, in 2017, and we did this in like 2.5 weeks, maybe less. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I trained one of our educators there, who is a ninja. Like he can model, he can rig. So yeah, he picked it up very quickly, and I was just providing like general direction on how to organize scenes in Blender, using Blender scene system, how to like file structure and stuff.
What about the render time? The render time on this, is it very heavy, like the processing?
No. In fact, like there was no render time for this because like there's no shading on this. It's just the textures that the kids drew. So whatever they drew, like appeared in the final movie. I mean, there's no shading. We are just applying textures on the polygons. That's it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So we were able to like render it out very quickly, and I think we were using Blender 2.6.8, 6.7.
Does this new version already have any like rigging support for like puppet rigging too, like the 2D?
Oh no. Well, I'll come to that. Like grease pencil, right? You mean grease pencil?
Yes.
Yeah, grease pencil. Like you can parent grease pencil objects to your rigs.
Perfect.
So you can do that. So yeah. So this is another like use case that I'm like really proud of. Like so yeah. This is the team: Panzer, Yang, and Louis Liu.
Yeah. If you didn't tell me, I wouldn't have known this was a Blender.
Yeah.
I would have thought it was
like
Blender, After Effects or something.
Cool. Yeah, although the final composite we had to do in After Effects because we were running out of time, and the compositing part, we didn't get enough time. So Panzer like felt comfortable to just finish it off in After Effects. But yeah, the rest of the process was all in Blender.
Nice.
So yeah, I think these are some things that I'm really fortunate to have worked on. Cool. So let's. Any other questions? I think we've covered Blender Cloud, and like which is like really, I highly recommend this.
Yes.
You are supporting Blender Foundation, and also you're getting access to very high quality training, and you have access to all these production files. You can actually see how say Spring, right? Okay, for example, Spring. You can download the entire production tree for Spring and like check out how they let's see.
Yeah, and that's really amazing. I mean, like just imagine there's like you have actual access. You've always wanted to know how people create the file, optimize the stuff. It's right here. It's all right here.
Yeah. In fact, there's a short file selection, so you can see for each shot you'll have it's like almost 1 gigabyte. So you'll have all the pipeline steps in here. Layout, anim, lighting. Yeah, cool. And so this is the main website, blender.org, and I told you about Blender.community. Here you can do a lot of things. Blender today. Right-click select. You can like submit ideas to improve Blender. People vote them, and the developers look at. Like right-click select, and there's a chat room where you can ask questions and get support. And yeah, Ton Risendahl was awarded the Eworks Award by ASIFA Hollywood in 2019.
Yay!
Yeah. So Ton is awesome, and his team, Ton and his team that is developing. So you can download Blender for all the operating systems. It's also available on Steam. You can keep your version up to date on Steam. I always just download the zip file, okay, and then I just like extract the zip file
Look at
and
how
just use it.
tiny
Yeah,
these
just
files are.
yeah, it's just after extracting, it's just 370 megabytes. That's it.
Oh, nice.
And
Because I
then
mean, like I know
when you launch,
some softwares nowadays are so bloated. You go, oh no, I have to have a
yeah,
really big computing power to use this. But
hmm
wow, this is relatively
yeah,
small.
and it launches like very quickly. And then few other things, and then also because like Blender is open source software, it's being developed almost every day, and almost every day there's a new build. So if there's a bug and you filed it,
Mm.
there's a probability that it'll get fixed right away or in a week, but you can always download the latest bleeding edge builds,
Mm.
2.82, 2.83. So 2.82 will be releasing in the second or third week of this month.
Mm.
So 2.82, and there'll be release logs. So for 2.82, these are all the improvements. Like
Oh,
grease pencil.
easy. We can let's
Grease pencil.
yeah. So we have a question.
Yeah.
William asked, "What are your thoughts on Blender as a threat or an alternative to what might be considered an industry standard tool, and the emergence of Virtual Studio versus the big brick and mortar studio?" I think we talked about this before as well too.
Again, like Blender is a tool. Like a tool in the right hands, you can create great stuff. So I mean that's my answer. Like
Keep
yeah,
saying it.
I mean, it's about like you don't switch to something new right away, right? You get to know the tool. You do a feasibility study, and if you have a lot of people training and all that, so you need to balance all of this. But for small studios, for startups, it could be a viable
Yeah.
solution.
And I think from all these showcases they've been putting out, like the feature films, I think Blender has kind of proved that they are capable of creating productions for large scale and very very like high quality as well. So
Yeah, it's about like every software has lots of buttons, so there's a combination of it and
yeah.
your work that gives you the output,
Yes,
right?
but I think
So
when talking about this, I think Satish and I had to talk about this too, and we were mentioning, like no matter what software you use, usually sometimes if you go in a studio, you have your own proprietary software anyways, and then they're going to be using their own because they can tweak it and different things as well. So in terms of like production scales, my opinion on this was that like as we're moving along, people will be able to create more like bigger productions with a smaller crew. So there might be more little like people like little studios, like less than 20-30 people that are like going to be popping up with really high quality stuff. But in terms of like a larger scale, it's a little bit harder for a larger scale like a 200-300 people to all move at the same pace as well too.
Yep, and Tangent Animation in Canada, they use Blender for to make next gen, and they have like lots of like making offs on the Blender channel. So like Blender conference happens every year in Amsterdam in the month of October. So just go and find like Tangent Animations like Blender conference talks. So where you'll see how they're using like grease pencil for storyboarding, previous doing storyboarding and previous at the same time, how that changes things in production. So yeah, Tangent Animation is setting the
3 million
stage.
hours in 30 days. Interesting.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, any other questions?
I think
Otherwise,
that's like yeah, it keeps coming, but then like just let's move on to the demo.
okay, a demo. Okay, cool. So let me show you. I'm gonna launch like Blender. In fact, the first time you launch Blender, let me delete my preferences so that I can show you how it looks the first time you launch it, because there are some important things. 1 second. Oops. And the foundation. Let me just. So the user preferences, basically. All right, let's launch Blender. Yeah, so it's asking you what kind of shortcuts you want to use. So Blender has its own like philosophy for workflow and hotkeys. So the Blender like shortcuts are the default, but to help folks transition from third-party softwares, there's a industry compatible like key map. But yeah, you can choose that. And like historically, Blender used to be right-click select. It means you select stuff using the right mouse button, which is like totally different than other software. So again, Blender is now default left-click select, and I got used to it, because yeah, you need to change your workflow sometimes, for the better. And then you can choose the theme, and then you have the splash screen. Okay, so let me. So this is Blender. You have like different workspaces. So this is the layout workspace, which is the default. You have the 3D view. You have the timeline here. You can move this around. Then you have the outliner, and then you have the properties window. Okay.
So in terms of sorry, I was going to say, in terms of 3D interface, I feel like this looks a little bit more like Cinema 4D than it does Maya.
I guess so, because I have not used. In fact, Blender was my first 3D software, that I ever used for a long time, and then a little bit of Maya at Rhythm and Hue, very little, and at Oriental DreamWorks I learned Maya, so. So between Maya and like Blender, the UI elements, and it's entirely different. Cool. And then you have basically a workspace like gives you like different layout. So for example, for modeling, you don't need the timeline, so there's no timeline here. And then there's the outliner and the properties. For sculpting, you have the sculpting mode set and all your sculpting tools here. In fact. So this is called the Toolbox here. Okay, this is called the Toolbox. You can, click on the edge and drag it to see all the names of the tools, and you can hide and reveal it with the T key. Okay, like which is these hotkeys. So all the menu items, like most of them have like hotkeys, so you can like learn and then use them if you want. And then there's also properties, I guess. Yeah, the sidebar where you have other properties of the scene objects. Okay, the active tool, the view, settings. So that's the concept of workspaces. UV editing, texture painting. You can do 3D texture painting. I'll share some like good videos that go through this process in a playlist for all of you.
Oh, playlists are great.
Yeah. So Blender supports like node-based like material authoring, and so Blender has implemented the principal Psdf, which is based on like Disney's principal Psdf paper. So yeah, it's basically physically based rendering. So this shader should translate to Unity or Unreal, if you export the model. Yeah.
For those of you that don't know, Unity and Unreal's are a game engine, so therefore that means that you can take it from like the 3D model and put it into a game engine and make a game.
Mm-hmm. In fact, just today, one more thing. There's also Blender Development Fund. So this is the monthly contribution from individuals and companies. So that's like $100,000 per month to develop Blender, So so lots of individuals, so Epic, AMD, NVIDIA.
Oh yeah, the Epic Maker
Labs. Yeah, so there's lots of like support from the community, the industry, and the community as well.
Yeah, that was actually going to be a question, but I mean you've already answered it, because I was going to say, since Blender is free and open source, how is it supported, and how can people be sure that even though Blender's been here a long time, that it just won't die out once you get used to it?
Right. Yeah, and so there's the cloud, there's the Blender store, and then the Blender Development Fund. So cool. So what was I? Yeah. So Epic today did a live stream. They are implementing an add-on for Blender to Unreal, so you can like make changes in Blender and then stream it to like Unreal, like without any export step. Just send it to Unreal. Yeah, you can find it on YouTube like later. So
I'm writing
awesome.
all these notes down so we can have that playlist.
I owe you the playlist. Yeah, cool. So I mean, I cannot cover all the like interface stuff in this session, but what I wanted to show you is like kind of like a real life workflow of how I use Blender. You know,
Awesome.
so let me open up. Okay, first let me install one add-on. So I used this add-on called Blender Kit. So Blender supports Python 3.7 scripting language. So like the Python scripting language on the current version is 3.7. So Blender Kit is a library developed by some artists, and so basically I log in. So there are free models, and then you can pay if you want to get to all the models. For this demo, I just signed up on Blender Kit for the free account, and I've installed the plugin. And now you can see this bar here, you know, this search bar. I can get access to the Blender Kit like library. Where is it? In progress. Just log in.
So these assets that you get from Blender Kit, in which way can you use it? For educational, showcase?
No, you can. I'm not sure about the license. I think it's free to use. Yeah, I would just have a look at it, you know. But I definitely use it. I know there's some networking problem right now, but usually you get access to all the library from here. And then I built a scene today to demonstrate that. ASIFA-South thumbnails. Let's see. So this is like a small case study. All right.
Oh, so cute.
I know. Create. Yeah, while working on this, I had to write a small tool. So Blender's asking me, hey, do you want me to load the tool? So this tool is create new camera from view. So I said, allow. Awesome. So what's the idea behind this demo, right? So I am not modeling, I'm not rigging. So I used like models from the Blender Kit library. Okay. So you can see I have trees and plants. Okay. Then I have this collection, which is the ground plane, which I modeled, simple ground plane. And then I have the trash cans here. Yeah, and then these two kittens. Okay, these kittens are outside of the outliner. And then I have a spot lamp and a sun lamp. Okay. So I'm making use of the collection system in Blender. It's a new feature in 2.8, very versatile and awesome. We can do a full session just on collections and view layers, and compositing. Right. So yeah, I have set up this scene, and you can see I can like look at my scene in different modes based on the need. So I'm going to switch to the world mode, but I can see the scene from like different like environments. Okay, let me switch to the scene camera. Okay, there you go.
Does the Blender Light Kit come with preset lighting scenes for you and things like that?
Yes.
As well? Oh,
yes.
Nice.
So in the solid mode itself, you have access to a lot of like preset lighting. So this is the studio lighting where you have like different configurations, and you can go ahead and make changes like without having any light in the scene. Adding any light in the scene. You have access to. In fact, shadows are disabled by default, but you can see disable shadows, like enable cavity mapping, and show me outlines around all the objects. So I think this is the biggest change in 2.8. They made the viewport like real time. and like functional out of the box. You know, so and then you have the look depth mode. In the look depth mode, you can choose like different HDRI or image-based lighting environments, and you can quickly check how your scene would look, like how your shaders would look in different lighting environments without doing any setup.
Without setting up, so you just drag and drop,
Yeah.
and then you go to the viewport tuning,
Yeah.
press one button, and it's done.
Done. All these come shipped with Blender. And then I think in 2.81 they introduced like passes, like basic support for passes, so you can see. So this is all real time in the viewport. Okay. There's subsurface on the cat and those leaves, so you can see.
How good is your computer? What's the minimum requirement for using Blender?
I've used Blender on on a computer with onboard graphics card as well, like a couple of years ago. I mean, this one is a little beefy, but it's a laptop. I'm still running off of a laptop. Yeah. Cool. So that's the scene. I have. Let me switch back, and let me show you how I would lay out these objects. So I selected these objects. So these are all instances. Okay, they're all instances of an asset, which is in a separate file on the file system. So Blender has the concept of like linking. So when I link, it's like Maya reference. In Maya you would reference multiple instances of something. So and then I'm using the snapping tools, snap to face, active along the normal, and then I can like just duplicate and just populate it very quickly. Add some trash cans. Okay, and then I've set up just one camera. So basically my main idea was I am doing the scene assembly in this scene. So Blender has the concept of scenes, like or different views of your data, in your Blender session. So right now I'm in this scene called sequence. Okay, in this I'm just laying out all my props and character rigs and basic lighting, in case I want it. And then in my sequence.001, so for me sequence.001 scene is the actual shot. Okay, and you can see in this shot I've set up multiple cameras. Okay, camera 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? So let's look through these cameras. So and then let's switch back to. So this is the look dev mode, okay, and then this is the EV. So this is the EV real-time like renderer, okay. So including depth of field and all that fancy stuff. So you can see. I'm looking at camera 0. Okay. Let me switch to camera 1. Okay. So this is camera 1, and you can see in the camera settings, I can tune the depth of field.
Whoa!
From here.
I love this live viewport thing.
Yeah, this is really nice. Yeah. So, like in this scene, I set up like multiple cameras. Basically, I'm doing the like before previous, like scouting. So this for me is like scouting. I'm like scouting from where I can shoot, this shot. So I have these 5 cameras, and yeah, there you go. From here, and, camera 4. I don't know what this camera is. Yeah, I was just. Okay, and then after I did the scouting, I want to set up a simple edit, where I can play with different camera configurations. So that's when I created a new window. Okay, so a new window will be like this. Okay, in this window I created another scene called edit. Okay, the way I create another scene is.
Okay, I have a question.
Just creating.
You can run 2 windows at the same time?
Yeah,
Oh, so you
like,
don't have
like
to
I can
close
have,
it and then open it. Oh, okay.
yeah, it's like this. It's actually pretty trippy, you know. Sometimes it can get pretty complex, but then it gives you the flexibility to
Yeah.
get a sense of the shot.
And there's an
There's
eye
one
now.
more thing.
Sorry, I mean the
Yeah,
cat's eye was missing, so I was like, ooh, that's so scary. But then when you rendered it, it came out as a material.
yeah. There's one more thing I did not show here. So as you can see in this sequence.001 scene, I cannot select any of these objects. See this? I'm clicking on these objects and I don't see them in the outliner, right? Because all these objects are in my initial scene here, organized. So what am I doing here? Here I'm using that you know, like assembly as a background scene.
Like a reference?
Like think of it like you're on a live action, like, you know, theater, and you're changing the screens, you know, when there's a
Yes.
new shot. It's exactly like that, you know. I can swap to a different scene and look at it from the same lighting. So yeah, I'm like using this functionality so that I know exactly what additional things I've added, you know, in this session.
Yeah, great
Just
for
these
previous
cameras
blocking.
and these two empties, you know, for the focus,
Yeah.
the defocus. That's it. And then so I have a 3D scene with the cameras. Then I set up my edit. So this edit scene is empty. Like if you go to the layout, there's nothing in this scene, absolutely nothing. So I created a video editing in a workspace, which is here. And yeah, Blender has a nonlinear video.
This is
video editor.
fantastic.
Yeah. So now you can see I have, you know, I have like added my scene, you know, from, you know, this scene. And then, yeah, I can bring it in. I can, you know, move things around. I can do cuts, hard cuts, soft cuts, you know, like you would do in like editing software. Let me delete this. Basically, I cut this into 4 different parts, and for each scene, I change the camera because I'm planning my edit, right? Based on my scouting, I'm planning my edit. Let me switch to like solid mode so that it's fast display, and in the solid mode, like I can do scene overrides. Yeah, it's pretty phenomenal what you can do. So yeah, so for this you know, timeline, like maybe 50 frames, I'm using camera 000, right, which I can set from here, you know, camera 000. And then for this next part, I'm using camera 001. So I can like set up all my different edits and see how it would look, you know, do some test renders,
Like previous animatics.
yeah, exactly, you know. Like here, I am streaming a live 3D scene into the sequencer. So this is a live 3D scene. Say for instance, I'm going to move this cat. Okay, so let's go back to our like original scene and move the cat. Let's move this guy. Let's move him a little away.
Yeah. And William mentions
Okay.
that he thinks this can even actually be run on a thumb drive by the
Yeah, exactly.
printer. Why not?
Yeah, because it's a zip file, just extract it and carry it around. So now I moved the cat, and I just need to refresh. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, perfect. It's like live
No
linking
play blast.
right there.
Yeah, live link. I mean, there's no play blast. There's no nothing. And all of this is contained in this one Blender file.
Yeah. And
My assembly, my shot with Scout, and then
Yeah.
my edit.
and you know how us animators just really don't like rendering.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And Dominique
Um,
says that, oh, this would be great for interior designers to use, and she's gonna download it right now. And she's like, she's happy that it's not as scary as she thought that it was gonna be. And William said it's easy, extremely easy to get it up and running. Definitely check out Jama Juraba's
Jama Jurabeb, yeah.
workflow
Yeah.
feature.
Yeah. I met Jama at Lightbox Expo.
I heard it was
you
really
should
good,
check
right?
his,
The Lightbox.
Yeah, he's yeah, Checkout is, I bought his Gumroad
fantastic.
tutorials for grease pencil. And
I need to get
Study's
into
workflow
that.
is just phenomenal. Oh, that's my favorite chef.
Masterclass.
Um,
I've actually
yeah,
subscribed to that.
me too, me too.
You too? Oh, nice.
Yeah,
You like
I'm like
learning,
learning
huh?
from like Wolfgang Puck and
It's also
this
great.
guy.
Yeah, it's also great to see how people are setting up different types of tutorials and like how to
Mhm.
teach different like people different things as well too.
Yep, yep. And yeah, you know, like this itself saves you lots of setup, like lighting, and I just love it.
Wow.
So yeah, and then like from here, like based on this edit, you can actually create your shots, with the right markers, and yeah, pipeline. In fact, as I said, I don't know if this one, yeah, I wrote this small script while working on this because I had to add different cameras, like quickly. And I did not want to do it manually. So I was able to write this small script that lets me, in fact, let me show you how it works. Is this running? Let me comment this. Okay, so say I want another camera from this view, right? So I press F3, then create new camera from view. And boom, I have a new camera there. I can okay, maybe I like to shoot from here. F3. Okay, like the Blender scripting language itself, even for non-programmers, it's actually, like designed for artists to make their own simple tools. Yeah, and it comes with lots of templates. Lots of templates, UI, operators. It's yeah. In fact, recently, one artist who runs a website called Choco4, he created a tutorial for artists on how to create simple scripts in Blender. So I'll link that in the playlist as well.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a very, easily scriptable. Yep, I love it. I mean, Blender is my research lab. I have access to lots of technologies. I'm a technical artist, so I get access to all these in this tool.
It's like a playground.
Exactly, like Dexter's laboratory. You can blow things up. And learn from it.
Could you show
and the
us?
Community, yeah.
I was like, unless you're like not done with the scene yet, I would also like to see a quick demo of like the grease pencil. I think you also set that one up as well.
Sure. Yeah. Like I have one more file that I wanted to show you. Okay,
yes, please.
And then we'll end with the grease pencil. Is that okay?
Yes, perfect. That would be perfect.
Yeah. So this is something which is also nice. Let's see, downloads. Files. I love doing like rigid body simulations in okay, so I created this some time ago in 2014. I created this setup, so for this like demo, I wanted to see if it still works in 2.82, and it worked. Like everything worked from 2014 to 2020. It was able to read. So what is this doing? So this is an example of like rigging and the rigid body simulator. And then now let me show you one cool thing here.
Yeah. So to quickly explain to people who might not know this, usually there's like rigid body, soft body. Rigid body is like when it's like solid shapes, and then the simulator you're like kind of having them interact with something as well.
Right, like rigid bodies do not deform, so you're only changing their translations and rotations, but you're not animating them frame by frame. Okay, so for instance, like this guy is a rigid body, and its weight is so much, and it has lots of friction, and it is very bouncy. So you set up all these things, and you have this thing called constraints. Like you have a door, right? The door is hinged to the wall. So I set up a hinge constraint between these rigid bodies. and then let the simulator deform the rigid bodies, and then I have a curve deformer deforming this actual geometry. Okay, so yeah, sometimes like this is helpful to get like fluid motion. There's no keyframing in this setup, right? And then you run the simulation. Okay, let me delete the simulation cache and then play the simulator. Okay, and now see this, like Blender also has like interactive simulations. I can like interact with the simulation as it is happening.
Are you moving the thing right now?
Yeah, I'm actually doing it. I mean, it's not a recording. I'm like, hey.
Oh man, this is funny.
Yeah, I mean, this was, I mean, I just spent 2 days. Hey, I want to make this. And I just, went with it, and they came up with this setup. And I can like, yeah, sweep them away. Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
Perfect for like
Blender.
Machinery demos.
Yep. I mean, I'm a mechanical engineer, so I like doing this because I can set up mechanisms, and in fact, you can find a lot of them on my blog. Like here, if you go and type rigid bodies, you'll find, yeah, it's yeah, there you go. Yeah, so this is another version which I set up in 2017 in Shanghai. So it looks different. Yeah. So yeah, that's about this. And then now let's go to grease pencil.
Yay! The long-awaited grease pencil. I mean, all these are really cool too, but I was like, I'm particularly super
grease
excited
pencil
about
is. So Blender 2.8 like introduced the concept of application templates. If you're doing 2D animation, there's a setup of Blender that is tuned towards 2D animation workflow. So if I click 2D animation, you'll see I don't see the layout view,
Sweet.
or the shading view. It's just 2D animation, 2D full canvas, compositing and rendering. Okay, so you can set up a pipeline basically, in Blender. So let's see what grease pencil is about. Okay, now what am I looking at? I'm looking on the front view. Okay, now let me come out of the front view. So this is a 3D scene, right? And then I have this object. It's a transform. Okay, you can move it in space. Okay, there's nothing there. It's just a point in space right now. Let me clear the location. Okay. Now, so this is the grease pencil object. Okay. Like every object in Blender has different modes, and you can see for grease pencil we have the draw mode, we have the sculpt mode, the edit mode, and the weight paint mode. So let's go to draw mode, and I'll switch to the front view. Okay. And I'll use my Wacom hand for this. Hide the camera. All right, now I'm looking through the front view, and yeah, Blender has the concept of 3D cursor. I rely on it to find where I'm in space, so that's why I turn it on. And I'm drawing, right? So let's look at the structure of grease pencil object. You have like layers. Like in Photoshop, you would organize your painting in layers, right?
Yes.
So this is exactly that.
Yeah,
So
like
you
Toolbox
have,
has that too, the line and the fill layer.
Lines and fills, and yeah, you can. So this is onion skinning is on for both the layers, and these are the onion skinning, like settings. Let me just set it to 24.
24 frames per second. Or no, 24 frames.
Like before and after. Okay, before and after. And this is when you play blast, do you want to see the onion skins? Okay, so that's that. And then so let's draw some strokes. Okay, so this is the pen tool. So let's draw something. So oh, there's one more thing. So we have the dope sheet here. So we are looking at the dope sheet for the grease pencil objects. So you have dope sheet for your 3D objects. You have dope sheet for the blend shapes or shape keys, yeah, and so on and so forth. let's draw something. So, boom. Okay. So, pressure sensitivity is on for strength and radius. I can turn things on and off. Okay. And so let's look at the tools. So these are the tools for drawing. Okay. And then you can draw lines. You can draw poly objects,
Zigzaggy.
Yeah. And then you can draw curves, like you have something very specific. You can like really fit it without drawing it, And you have, polygon shapes and and then, filling tools. And let me undo this. In fact, I'll not undo this. I'll just add a new layer. Okay. I can add, so by the way, I'm using the soon to be released version, which is 2.82. Which is still in beta. Yeah, I live on the bleeding edge. So every Monday of the week, I download a new build and just, And in that version, in the dope sheet, they have added these plus and minus buttons to add new layers. Okay. Like previously, you had to go to the grease pencil, data, the properties, and then add a new layer. But in 2.82, you can add it from here. So let me add a new layer here. Make it the active. I can hide the previous layers. I can log the layers very easily. Turn off onion skinning visibility. So let's paint on this layer now. But I'm going to use a different brush. So Blender's like grease pencil has a really nice brush engine. So I'm going to use a ink pen. And then for the ink pen rough brush, you have these settings. Okay, and you can configure this brush to your liking. Nice. So these are the defaults: advanced, stroke settings, stabilization, curves, like sensitivity, strength, and jitter curves. So, but I'm not a 2D artist, so I'll just draw stuff quickly. So yeah.
Can you also make your own brush?
Yeah, you can make your own brush and save it. So I think tool. Yeah, here you can. Yeah. You can definitely create your own brush. I don't know exactly how. And then it comes with a library of other brushes as well. Cool. That's the brush. And then you have materials. So the brush doesn't hold the color. Okay. The brush is just the type of the bristle. And then you have materials. So you can create like, so these are the defaults in the 2D animation template. You have black material, which is just a stroke. There's no fill color. If I enable fill, you can see there's a fill color for this. And I can change the fill color after the fact. Okay, it's all procedural. You can change things after the fact. And then you have like different types, dots and boxes display of the
Is that the bounding box? Oh, that's the stroke.
Yeah, the display, and then you can have textured brushes. You can load textures and then use them for drawing. Cool. So let me go back to this. So that's the material system. Okay. So you have the brush, and then you can have different strokes. So and then you can have different layers. So let me draw some animation. So let's go to frame number 24. And maybe I'm using a different brush, but it's okay. Yeah. Okay, and there's the onion skin is disabled, so I enabled it from here. Okay, so this is very basic. Again, like I'm not in a place to draw something in front of an audience. So now once you draw something, you can make changes, to the drawing. So one thing you can do is like interpolate. Okay, so let's do some interpolation. Go to the edit mode, and I'm going to choose this frame here, and then let's interpolate this. So I'm going to select the stroke, and then I'll say interpolate the selected strokes. Yeah, see that?
Ooh,
it'll do the tweening,
tweening for you.
The tweening for you, and then you can let go, and you get a breakdown key. So
Sweet.
you got a breakdown key there, and if you don't want it, you can like go ahead and grease pencil, delete. So a grease pencil stroke in a layer, it consists of points and strokes. The stroke is like a line segment with vertices and edges. Okay. In fact, you can get to the edge, the vertex level and modify.
Wow.
Okay, it's pretty. In fact, I'll use the proportional editing tool here, and then I can modify the drawing. And I can do this in 3D because it's a 3D object. So you're not constrained in a 2D plane. This is actually a 3D edit. It's actual 3D edit. So there are lots of good tutorials on YouTube. I'll link them in the playlist.
Perfect.
I've been watching all the tutorial to see how artists are using this tool. So it's amazing. Cool. So that's the edit mode where you can do interpolations. And let me remove this breakdown.
I'm just gonna say this. Like this is especially great for people who are spatially like horrible like me. Because when I work in a normal 2D plane myself, I'm like, okay, I need to go back and forth, zoom in, zoom out. Now I'm like, okay, how do I twist these things? But now, with the integration of 3D, I was like, okay, I'll just bring in a reference.
Yeah. Like in the end, we want to tell a story. The process can be different, So, and then the next thing is, so sequence will generate all the in-betweens between the keys, okay? And the sequence interpolation, you have different modes of interpolation. Today I was playing with the bounce interpolation, I mean the sequence mode. So if I do this and create the sequence, let's see this awesome animation. See, you get the bounce effect for free. So yeah, I think it's a good learning tool as well. Like for the visually challenged people like me, I can use this as a starting point and then tune it from there.
Definitely.
So that's the edit mode, and then you have the sculpt mode. In the sculpt mode, you can use say I want to smooth out this entire stroke. Okay, it's already smooth because it was a smooth stroke. It's fine, but I'm going to change the thickness. Like I want to increase the thickness of this stroke, or I want to reduce the thickness of this stroke. Okay, I'm pressing the control key to reduce it. And I want to change the strength of the stroke, like make it faint. So you have access to, and then I want to randomize these points for an effect. Okay. And then I'm going to I'll go back to edit mode, remove the breakdowns, and then generate the breakdowns again. So every property gets...
So now you have that effect, that like burn effect.
Yeah, you can do. Yeah, it's procedural, and then you can do like sculpting of this. So let's increase the radius and adjust. In fact, you can do this for every frame, in between the keys. So I'll just select. Let's see. Go to edit mode. Select the stroke, okay, and then modify that stroke. Okay, so after you get the interpolation or the sequence keys, you can go and edit each one to fine-tune your animation.
Nice.
So this is the very, very basics. So you have a grease pencil object. An object has layers. And you have like materials, and you can go ahead and change the materials whenever you feel like. You can turn off the fill, and finally every grease pencil object is like any 3D object. You can instance it. I'm gonna create a linked duplicate and position it. So if I modify this. If I modify, this object, say, I'm going to edit this. Okay, I'm going to, every sketch changes. Okay, so there you go. And like because we are in a 3D mode, like everything works. Perspective, Let me turn on the camera. So yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. And yeah, I may have, like, do we have time?
Yeah, we do.
Like, I think I have a file where I was just messing around with this system. Let me see if it's I don't know. I was just playing around. Yeah.
Sure. Oh, look at that one, the second one.
Yeah. So what is happening here?
Pixels.
Okay. So let's see what's happening here. I think I just duplicated. Yeah, I just duplicated the same sketch. Okay, it's like a tree. It's a palm tree, I guess. And then I applied two things. So every grease pencil object has effects, like blurring a grease pencil object, colorize, flip, glow, light, pixelate. So this guy has a pixelate effect. Okay, you can see if I remove it, I think this is pretty good, cool for making games.
Yeah.
Like retro style games. You can just render out a grease pencil sketch with alpha and then use it in your game.
Like I can draw something and then I'll just put it in and be like, oh look, it's pixel art.
Yeah, and then this guy has a shadow effect, as you can see. So, and I'm just generating, like offset the pixels and then change the scale and blur to get this shadow effect. So you have all these, effects. On top of that, you have modifiers. So, like in 3D animation, you would use a lattice, deformer, and like deform this 3D geometry. So you can do that on a grease pencil object. You can, create a 3D rig and parent your grease pencil layers to the 3D rig.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, and you can change the hue, saturation, opacity at the material level or at the layer level.
So if you click on the rig, do they just put a rig out for you and then you can parent?
No. Like you need to create an armature and create the bones.
Oh, the bones. Oh, I see. You have to make it.
Yeah, and then like traditional rigging, you would parent this sketch, So that's a separate process. I have not tried that yet with the grease pencil.
And then you can make the tree move like a puppet kind of thing with two. Yeah.
Yep. As you can see, I am, like changing the hue saturation of the sketch for this particular layer, or for the entire drawing. So it's, like pretty procedural. And again, the best place is, now that I've shown you the very basics of it, just go to Blender Cloud and go to course, I think training, and you get access to all the blend files for free. Yeah, I'll link it. Yeah, so there's a resources page where you can download all the stuff, all the blend files. Okay, I think that's about it. Hope it was useful.
Oh, I think it definitely was. Some people are like, yeah, they're gonna go download this right away. Because I think when there's a new software, especially when you're used to something that's similar, you don't kind of want to change to use something else. But then I think these are like good. Like the demos kind of make it a little easier to break down the different features. What's new, what stuff, and definitely we'll be asking you back to show us more demos later. But I think this is a great intro, for people to know that hey, it's not as scary as you think. It doesn't use as much computer power as you think, and it's free. I mean, you can't beat that. And you can use it for 3D, 2D, and many things.
Yeah, like more than free, it's open source. So there are some folks, like artists who are also programmers. They're like, hey, I want to make this better and improve the workflow, and then they do that. There's one guy, Pablo Dabaro. Oh man, he's improving the sculpting system. Pablo, he's like Pablo. I need to, let me see. On Twitter, if you use Twitter, the hashtag for Blender stuff is B3D. Okay. Oh yeah, this guy. Pablo is a artist,
Oh, he did a seal from
like programmer,
Pokemon.
and so he's developing the sculpting system, like improving the sculpting system, and he's creating his artwork.
Oh, that's
Okay.
fantastic. Oh, these
Yeah.
are fantastic.
So hey, I need this tool because he has access to the source code. He can dig in and yeah, see this cloth brush. Like this new brush. Boom.
Oh yeah, I think I saw this one.
Yeah. So using the sculpting tools.
Yeah.
I think this is not in 2.82, maybe in 2.83. So every day he blows people's minds.
Yeah.
And yeah.
If you can help me, like I'll put his name into the blog thing too. The resources.
I will.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Pablo.
We'll do that.
Down, Pablo. Yeah, but I think.
Pablo Tobarro.
Yeah. So I think this has been like a fantastic session. Satish, like you have been amazing at showing us all these different things. Like, is there anything like for tips for for people who are trying to get into Blender? Is there any like like a short tip that you would want to leave them with?
I think watch tutorials from 2-3 different artists, because the workflows is different. There's no one way to do it. Like, in fact, most tutorials out there, they use hotkeys. So I think like that could be a difficult way to start getting into Blender. So use for instance, in 2.8 they have added the toolbox, just like other 3D softwares. So you add an object, like instead of using the hotkeys, if you're not used to the hotkeys of Blender, right? So use this toolbox to move things around and slowly learn about the hotkeys, because they are a little different. The defaults are a little different, and most tutorials use the Blender hotkeys. Okay, so that could be
confusing.
Yeah. So in fact, I plan to create some tutorials for 2.8, and I don't want to use hotkeys because it becomes like difficult. So I'm like using all these tools. For example, if I want to scale, I use the interactive scale.
Definitely.
Like using the widgets. I think this is a good way of introducing new people to Blender. And one more thing. Like before, we had grease pencil in Blender, like as a 3D object. Grease pencil was just an annotation tool. Like you just annotate in 3D space. Okay. Then it became a 3D object. So that's the history of grease pencil.
Oh, so, perfect.
Yeah. So it started as a annotation tool.
There's a need. and I think that's what happens, like the tools evolve as the needs of the people. Sometimes you didn't make it for a certain reason, but then as there's more people that start to use it, the features come on. What about, do you have anything last things do you want to talk about, like say about Blender itself, like the future of Blender?
Future, I mean, the community drives the future, and in fact, I would just point people to this page, to see the amount of folks using Blender, So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's in the community's hand. You use it, you create things, and then more people create things. So it's another tool in the toolbox, Like,
definitely. Yeah.
That's
William says, "Thank you both. Really love the Blender community and what it stands for with the free and open source awesomeness. It's incredible to see how pros are using it and inspiring for starting a journey in creative freedom. And I think on a personal level, I think it's definitely really cool to see your workflow." Because I mean, for tutorials, it's nice that you can use these different types of tools. But when you see like, oh, how are people using it, especially with all those like open source like resources, I think it really gives you like a technique of unlocking how to storytell, how to storyboard, and how to use that technique more efficiently.
Yeah, I think storytelling using Blender is like so nice because of the grease pencil, the multi-scene system. I think if you are to take away like anything from this session, is like the architecture of Blender, is for telling stories. Like you can have your entire short film in one Blender file using this multi-scene workflow, and then your final edit in the same file.
And you can video edit and do 2D and do procedurals and
So,
Thank you so much, Satish, for today.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
I'm gonna remove this presentation. Like turn off the presentation first, I think. Yeah, so we can see your face again, your beautiful face.
All right.
Yeah, and so yeah, thank you so much. We'll definitely ask you back to help us with other stuff. And definitely, I think there's some big interest here. Yeah. So for everybody like who is watching this right now, first, I hope you guys got really inspired, as well as like if you want to see more of these things, like please send us some feedback. We want to know what the community is interested in, and we definitely want to encourage more usage of things that are affordable, as well as things that we feel are, going to help animators to move towards a better industry. The other thing about this is also that if you are interested, of course, we have our membership with ASIFA-South and a free newsletter, so you can sign up to kind of learn what events we have going on. We usually have these online panels every month. And the next month is actually also a previs artist from DreamWorks, breaking down how to do previs, like and what makes a good previs artist. And also for this coming February, a couple things that we have going on is we do have our monthly mixer that's every month. And for our monthly mixer is every last Wednesday of the week. Wednesday of the month. And now we're also actually going to be having an alternative mixer location. The beginning of 2020 was fabulous. We had a record-breaking 77 attendees at our mixer, which is great for us, but also not so good for the fire codes. So I think that's why we're looking at a new location right now with the collective, and we'll soon announce that and give that information. But our next mixer is still located at Joystick, and it's also going to be with a storyboard director, Akil Guzman from Floyd County, and he's going to be breaking down how he does his storyboarding and his tips as well too. The other thing is we're also having our first two out of Georgia mixers coming up in Orlando, Florida, and Huntsville, Alabama. We'll definitely be putting that information up in our community group, as well as in our newsletter and on our website as well. So for folks who are not located in Georgia but are in Florida and Alabama, keep an eye out on that. So that way we can start like having people who are interested in the South try to get more information about this as well too. Other things is on the 10th, there's also the Atlanta Jewish Film Festival coming up, and the Atlanta Jewish Film Festival is it's really prominent, and there's going to be a screening, and the screening is going to be about the African American Jewish Civil Rights Alliance, and they're going to be featuring prominent Atlanteans such as like the Congressman John Lewis, Rabbi Alvin Sugarman, and award-winning actor Louis Gossett Jr. So if you're interested in that, go check out the Atlanta Jewish Film Festival website at ajff.org. And for ASIFA members, there is a 50% discount for the opening night screening. So check your newsletter for that. If you don't find it, then you can also email us for that. And two last things. One of the last things is that there is a fast paper animation fast film festival coming up, and that's going to be a whole week of festival of everything to do with paper animation, and this is by the Georgia Tech Library, and it's also by the Robert C. William Paper Museum. ASIFA is going to be doing two panels there. One is inclusion in animation on February 19, and innovation in animation on the 26th of February. Don't worry if you can't catch this. All this information will be available for you on our support newsletter as well as we'll be posting it on our social media as it comes. And the last news is soon coming up is our ASIFA Annual Festival 2020. The last time we had a 2018, and we had a hiatus to kind of go back and sort our system. But be prepared and save the date, because June 6th to 7th, we are going to have our annual animation festival and conference coming up, and details will be released at the end of February. So thank you everybody for coming out, and if you need more information, check out our community group as well as our ASIFA-South.com online. And that's it. I know I'm talking really fast, but thank you for staying with us, and I hope you guys join us again next month, as well as some of our community. None of this would be possible without you guys, without your support, and all these things as well too. So let's keep going, and let's make the community a better place. So I think that's it. See you guys.